Welcome to the Cloud Computing Insider. This channel explores the ins and outs of cloud computing without an agenda or following into the narrative set by big tech marketing. We look at what works, what does not, and the actual value of this technology in a balanced and information forward way. If that interests you, please subscribe, like, and comment. I'm your host, Dave Linthicum, author, speaker, B-list geek. Let's get started. So back in July, when my guest was announced as a new CTO, SVP of engineering at Aviatrix, I posted on LinkedIn, as someone who's been a CTO 6 times, I really have. I understand that this is a key hire for a tech team, Aviatrix, known for cloud networking expertise, welcomes Anirban Sengupta as the new CTO and Senior Vice President of Engineering with an impressive career spanning Google, VMware, Cisco. Sengupta will drive Aviatrix technical direction, enhancing their mission of providing streamlined solutions with top-tier visibility, control, and security. This advancement aims to boost business scalability, agility, and cost efficiency. Absolutely. And it was great to see you join the team. And so I could have not written a better introduction to my guest today. Joining me is Anirban Sengupta, the Chief Technology Officer and Senior Vice President of Engineering at Aviatrix. Welcome, Anirban. So tell us a bit about what you're doing there.
Thank you, David. Thank you for having me in the show. As you said, I joined Aviatrix around 7 months or 8 months back, right? And it has been an amazing journey. Why I joined Aviatrix and what attracted me to Aviatrix is the change of paradigm that Aviatrix is bringing to security and networking, and especially in today's ever-changing world of cloud. Uh, so, um, net, the whole paradigm of networking and security has been changing over time from the moment public cloud and a hybrid cloud came into existence. And this is where Aviatrix really pioneers, right? We have a cloud first architecture. We build the whole architecture based on cloud. It is not something that we inherited from on prem and bolted it into cloud, but it was built just for cloud. And not just that, right? It brings in together security and networking, what we call it as secure networking, right? And for cloud, for every cloud. So uh, these are the key areas, right, which we are known for, we are pioneer for, is the whole multi-cloud secure networking where security and networking comes together. It's not a bolt-in approach for security, but it's a built-in approach for security. As we move forward, how I'm looking at from my experience at GCP, I used to be in the engineering organization of Google Kubernetes Engine, right? The part which I am really looking at is enhance this secure networking, right, into the workload. So just not having security and networking as a baseline abstraction, but also bringing it into the whole workload space, which is not just the VM, because as we move forward, as you know, that Kubernetes has taken the industry by the storm, right? And this, we are extending this whole secure networking concept into the Kubernetes and container space, and looking forward also moving into serverless and the newer cloud native technology that's coming forward. So that's where we are looking at from a whole vision perspective. And in that context, right, the first step is that we are GAing our Kubernetes firewall, right? And that brings in Kubernetes networking and security into one umbrella for our customers.
So I saw the press release come across for the Kubernetes Firewall. Can you drill down on that a bit? So what are you bringing to the market there, and what is the problem that it solves?
Yeah, so with the great success of Kubernetes, which I saw while working at the Google Kubernetes engine, and I also used to run the open source Kubernetes team in Google, right? I found out that uh, the Kubernetes and networking and security are somewhat like two ships at night. they work independently and they are not closely tied together. And this is the gap which I am able to bridge as part of the Aviatrix team, right? And what we bring to the market is that um, having networking and security policies which is based on Kubernetes model. So there are multiple key areas where we have issues. So with Kubernetes, when we deploy Kubernetes at scale, so one is that we have a lot of overlapping and IP address exhaustion problem, right, which is known across Kubernetes deployments. Number two, right, is issues with egress security, right? Number three is how to consume security based on Kubernetes resource model. And last but not the least is the increasing cost of operations which Kubernetes brings once there are multi-cluster, right? And all of these areas we are addressing with the Kubernetes firewall. Number one, right, our solution can deal with Kubernetes resource model. So customers can write policies based on nodes. They can write policies based on pods and services, as well as multi-cluster microsegmentation or multi-cluster network segmentation. Number two, right, when they write these policies based on Kubernetes resources, they don't have to care about IP addresses. And as you know, that Kubernetes IP addresses, they keep on changing. So it's a lot of it is ephemeral and they get reused all the time. Plus, it is very dynamic, right? Because the pods can increase, they can scale up, scale down, right? And all those IP addresses keep changing on the fly. So writing intent based Kubernetes resource model based policies, right, makes it not being ephemeral, right? And then we figure out what are the IP addresses based on those pods, right? And even if they're overlapping IP addresses, it doesn't matter. You have two clusters with overlapping IP addresses, same range, right? It would still work, whatever the IP it is, and it will make sure that the policy is maintained whenever there is a dynamic churn happening in the Kubernetes clusters.
One of the things that impressed me about this and Aviatrix in general is that you address the hybrid and multi-cloud world. In other words, it's not this thing where we have this native system that only runs on a particular cloud provider. That drives me nuts. Everything out there, if you haven't noticed, is becoming very complex and heterogeneous. And so the ability to support a hybrid cloud model where we're mixing, private cloud and traditional on-premise systems with the public cloud models and the multi-cloud we're deploying, multiple cloud providers. It's a harder problem to solve, but you guys seem to be coming at it directly. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, so this all is due to our cloud first architecture. So what we have a multi-cloud distributed control plane, right? On top of that, we have a single pane of glass management plane. So we have a single management plane with a completely distributed control plane, and like the SDN systems, our data plane is separated from the control plane, right? So what that helps us, right, is us to have a single point of management where our customers can come in and get a unified uh, configuration and monitoring and management, right, across all clouds. And at that point, right, the controller can run in any different cloud, and the data plane can run on anybody's VPCs or VNets or on prem, right? So what it really helps us do is that our customers can have, in place of having multiple silos for every cloud that they use, they get one uniform networking and security uh, management point, right? But they can manage any cloud, any VPCs, any VNet, colos, edge, all of that from one single place with a completely distributed control plane. So our cloud first architecture really helps, right, to achieve that, which is very difficult for legacy vendors.
So, kind of backing up a bit, one of the features highlighted ultimately the capabilities to unify security policies across Kubernetes workloads and traditional VM based applications. So, you mentioned this earlier, but I'd like to elaborate on it a bit. How critical is the unified approach for enterprises with hybrid IT environments, and why should they consider this strategic to the way that they should deploy networks and network security?
Yeah. So first of all, the applications of today, right? They're changing, especially with Gen AI applications, AI ML applications, data processing applications, right? So earlier, with traditional three-tier applications, most customers used to run all the different tiers in one cloud, and that was how AWS or Azure, they all used to talk about it. But today, if you look at the applications, there is data which is generated all over the place, right? And most data is actually generated in the edge. You have the models which are served from different CSPs and different neo clouds. You have the applications which are running in different places. So there is an inherent need for customers to use multiple clouds and use services from the best of the breed, right? So to achieve that, the fundamental thing that is needed, right, is a cross cloud, multi cloud, edge and colo, or even data center based networking and security, right? And it's not just for connectivity. So think from the other point, right? Customers really spend tens and hundreds of millions of dollars to create these AI models, right? And also the AI applications. Now, if it is not secure, right? Number one, that it has a lot of PII datas, right, which needs to be secure by design. Plus, right, there is always a threat of losing these extremely expensive models to bad actors, right? So we what Aviatrix provides is an end-to-end secure network, so that all your data is transferred from one point to the other point in a secure way, right? And all your models and your assets are secure. The other piece to think of it is that in this whole application space, it's not just one thing, right? It's not that all applications, everything is in containers or everything is in VMs, right? There is always a mix and match, right, of uh, what kind of services are being used. It can be in VMs, even it can be in real hardware servers, right? Or it's in the VMs, it's can be in containers, it can be in serverless, right? All these technologies come together to form these applications, right? So having a policy which takes care of all the different types of containers, so to speak, or different types of compute and storage and services, right, really helps to secure seamlessly all these applications which are distributed across the network and across different clouds and edge.
So, another thing, the firewall integrates features like advanced NAT, granular identity based security, and policy driven egress filtering. So, elaborate for me how these functionalities make a difference for enterprises as they scale their Kubernetes deployments. And as somebody who's done this directly, I can't wait to hear the answer.
Yes. So one of the big things which the industry is feeling today is how to scale their Kubernetes deployment. So originally, the Kubernetes was supposed to be more like a cluster-centric technology, right? But as companies are as Kubernetes became successful and companies started to deploy more and more clusters, right, all the different issues with scale, governance, security, and compliance started to creep up, right? It is much more difficult to scale by the number of clusters, and the complexity is not even linear. It's way more than linear, right? And that is causing a lot of issues, especially, as I said, things like IP address exhaustions, right? Things like overlapping IP addresses, security and governance, because if every cluster is a snowflake, right, managing those clusters is extremely difficult from governance and compliance perspective. So what we bring in through the advanced NAT and our secure gateway, number one, you can have exactly same IP addresses across all clusters, and the advanced NAT resolves the policies which are based on containers and VMs into IP addresses using a reverse NAT traversal. Now the next piece is, how do we make sure that each of these clusters, right, adhere to the governance, security, and the compliance policies? So that's where our distributed cloud firewall and Kubernetes firewall come into the picture, right? And make sure that you have single pane of glass for policy, and all policies are uniformly enforced across all these different clusters, right? And last but not the least is that how do we make sure that our governance through network segmentation is maintained? For example, you can have one rule which says that prod VMs and prod containers cannot talk to the dev, right? You need just one rule and it will be enforced across all clouds, all containers, all VMs, right, with just that one rule, right? So it's so powerful and so easy to implement, right, that it is just a no-brainer to use the technology we have.
So, last question, kind of a forward-looking question. So, you guys build technology that's built for enterprise grade networking. So, in other words, it's getting into the ability to scale and the ability to support critical systems. What are the long-term implications of this technology on cloud-native security as enterprises continue to adopt AI, multi-cloud, automation strategies? In other words, things get more complex, things get more heterogeneous as we're seeing today.
Yeah, so a lot of the customers whom we talk to, and even from my past at Google, right, they're looking at what is being sometimes coined as Cloud 2.0 initiative, right? So the whole, as enterprise are looking at more and more new types of applications, right, they need to kind of reevaluate their cloud strategy. And the number one thing I say about having the cloud strategy is to embrace multi-cloud, right? So because the thing is that you don't want to miss out, right, on newer applications, newer services, newer technology that different clouds are bringing on, right? So I tell my customer, number one, embrace multi cloud. Number two, right, build and invest in a solid security and networking infrastructure. Right, as we all know that there are so many bad actors today, including nation states, right, that sponsor these kind of activities. So invest in networking and security. And last but not the least is that build your own cloud in place of ha- being on a different cloud, right? So that are the three key things I tell customers. One is embrace multi-cloud, number two, invest in security and networking, and number three is you build your own cloud so that you can control your cost, you can control your operations, you can control, you basically own your own destiny.
I learned a great deal in a very short amount of time, Anirban. So I want to thank Anirban for being on this show today. I urge you to check out the technology of Aviatrix. Also, see the link in the press release that was core to our discussion today on the screen. Please check out that and look out for other technology offerings at Aviatrix. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out my other videos on this channel. Also, check out my InfoWorld Cloud Computing blog, my 100 plus LinkedIn learning courses, of course, my generative AI architecture course on Go Cloud Careers, my other YouTube show, AI Insights Innovation, at the Cube Research YouTube channel, and finally, my latest book, An Insider's Guide to Cloud Computing. So until next week, you guys stay very safe. Cheers.
Thank you.